Oh, sorry, it was broken for a second. Anyway, so my wife is away for the night, so I figured I would just run through, the pedal making process that I do, to show you guys how it's done, because I posted a few pedals. And I haven't posted any videos. It's like 9, so if I get bored I might end this. Anyway, so I finished one of the Bluesbreakers. This is the board right here, you can see. So this is all laid out really easy. It's just made out of plastic with all the leads. This one actually looks like a lot better quality than a lot of the ones I've seen. Actually doesn't look like copper. I don't know if these are tinned with solder. But you can see they kind of look silver. Usually they have a, they're copper, so they're copper colored. So anyway, you can see basically the way I usually start is like you could lay in all of the components and then solder them. But because things are so close together, it's good to work like from one side over. Just so you solder this way or solder this way. So what I usually like to do is if I have like an IC, if you look right here and see this set of them right here, this is for the IC socket. So I like to do that first because it's a pretty big component. You see I got it right in here. So much packaging. Anyway, so this is it right here. You can get these at Mouser or whatever. This is just the socket that the IC sits in. That way if you want to change it, it might be kind of blurry. If you want to change the IC socket, it's not soldered in there. So, see where it sits right there? So you just drop it in there. And it just sits in there like this. Sorry. And that way you can just drop the socket in and out of there and you don't have to worry about it. So this table that I have here, you can see this is my drill press right here. And this is a drill press table jig that I have. So it's got an adjustable height like off of the drill press. So it's really great for working depending on your height. Plus it won't burn through like soldering and stuff. I use this Weller gun. You can use like stick guns that are a lot easier to get into small places. I have to file down the tips on these so you get like a sharper point to get in there. But if you've been soldering for a while and you get kind of used to like what you're doing, a little bit easier than if you start out with a gun. It's kind of a broad point to get into the small areas. I'm not saying that I solder amazingly, but it gets the job done. Anyways, this is the solder I just started using. This is this Kester stuff. It's great. It's actually a really fine size, and it just feeds right out of the top of this, which is great, so you can just have it running. So I'm just going to solder in this IC just real quick here. So it's got a nice little light that comes on. Gets nice and hot. And when you see the solder kind of pool up on the components, then you know that you got the appropriate heat there. It'll kind of stick and just run. You'll see it. It'll make sense. Make sure you don't breathe this stuff in. Wear a mask. A guy at work who used to sell industrial solder. He said it's like the most heinous thing on the planet to breathe. So once it gets in the air and it's not smoky, it's fine. But you definitely don't want to inhale like a big gray smoke of it. Here we go. So anyway, I don't know if you'll be able to see here, but you can see, no, maybe you won't be able to see. They kind of pool up to the leads, so it kind of makes like a little mountain, and that's when you know that you got good like wetting. So anyways, that's on there pretty good. And the leads on this are pretty short, so you don't need to trim them. Alright guys, so this is how simple this is. This is the layout right here. And this will tell you what every resistor is in every single place and how they hook up to the pots. This is how simple this is. This is all you have to follow. It literally takes seconds. Like right here, this is resistor number 1. It's a 1.5 mega ohm resistor. You stick it in there and you solder it. Once you're done with these, you solder them to the pot, and then you have a working pedal for nothing, and you didn't spend $300 into somebody else's pocket. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done what I kind of said not to do, which is to lay everything in here before you solder. And it looks good, but I just want to show you what you have to deal with on the back then is this. And so all of these are bent to hold the components in place, so then you have to work from one side to the other and clip the leads after you solder them. So I didn't time it to see which way would be faster. But, I started to look through all of my crap to make sure I had everything, and picked out the right ones. And rule of thumb, when you're ordering stuff online, double check your orders, or else you'll end up with things like .022 capacitors that you will never need, because you really needed .22 capacitors. So these will just sit on a shelf until you make something randomly that needs them, or when you get desperate and just say, oh, it won't matter, like I've done before. Anyway, keep everything really well labeled. See these little baggies that have what kind of resistors these are? These are ultra critical, and the reason is that there's nothing worse on the planet than looking up color codes for resistors, especially when you're red-green colorblind like I am. Anyway, I'm going to solder this up and show you what I'm... Okay, so I just finished, and you can see everything's soldered in and completed. And I gotta say, like, the time that I saved throwing in everything and soldering together, I think it was pretty much wasted while I was soldering, having to make sure everything got cleared. And just like the anguish of like not knowing what I was soldering really without having to flip it over and look. Like for the diodes, you definitely want to put some heat sinks on them so that you don't heat them up much. I'm not going to say that I've never had a problem, with not using heat sinks, because I'll just jinx myself. But I haven't had a problem with them like overheating. I haven't noticed anything exactly wrong with them. The same thing with capacitors. If I have more room and more spare time, then I put little alligator clips on the leads. Don't burn up, but I don't really care. Anyway, so yeah, don't do what I just did and solder them, one or two at a time. Throw them in there, kind of in groups. And lastly, I decided after this project, I'm definitely going to get that $150 Weller soldering iron that turns on and off automatically when you touch it to metal, because the gun has got to go. Thing has a trigger to turn it on and off like that, which is fine, but this whole top piece just gets so effing hot. And I usually hold it like this so I can control it, because you don't have a lot of dexterity like this. Maybe you do. Maybe you're a cop or something and you can just squeeze them off like that. But I don't. So I have to hold it like this, and the tip isn't really what I'm looking for, and I'm just sick of it. So that's going to the wayside, and that's only going to be for doing big pot stuff. I'm going to do the case tomorrow with the pots, because I'm sick and tired of everything. And, so really you end up with this, right here. This is it. So everything's in place, and everything's good to go. So I hope, I don't know, if you didn't learn anything, then, well, that's fine too. And see you later.